What does a tense bank standoff and an argument over the trash have in common? Way more than you think. The same psychological keys the FBI uses to talk down dangerous people can de-escalate an argument with your partner, your boss, or your teenager before it explodes. It sounds like a superpower, and honestly, it kind of is, but it's not magic. It's a proven, battle-tested science. Today, I'm breaking down the FBI's 5-step model for resolving conflict. This is a sequential process that gives you the power to calmly guide any difficult conversation to a peaceful end. It was developed by the FBI's hostage negotiation unit, and you're about to learn how to use it in your own life. Stick around, and I'll show you how to stop fights before they even begin. The foundation. Why logic fails and empathy wins. Before we climb the ladder, let's look at what it's built on. The single biggest mistake we all make when things get heated is trying to win with logic. We pull out spreadsheets of facts, timelines of who said what, and flawless arguments to prove, beyond a doubt, that we are right and they are wrong. And what happens? It's like throwing gasoline on a fire. Here's why. You cannot reason someone out of an emotional state. When someone is angry, frustrated, or scared, the logical part of their brain checks out. Their emotional brain is driving. Hitting them with facts isn't just ineffective, it feels like an attack. It tells them you're not just disagreeing with them, you're dismissing their feelings, and that just makes them dig their heels in deeper. This is where the FBI's core philosophy changes the game. They knew that to change someone's mind, you first have to understand it. This led to the creation of the Behavioral Change Stairway Model. It's a 5-step ladder that methodically moves a person from high-emotion conflict to calm, collaborative problem-solving. The 5 steps are active listening, empathy, rapport, influence, and finally, behavioral change. And here's the golden rule, the one you can't forget. The steps are sequential, and you must follow them in order. Each step builds on the last. Trying to jump straight to the top to influence someone before you've shown empathy is like trying to build a house by starting with the roof. It will always collapse. Most of us make this mistake constantly. We skip straight to solving the problem before the other person even feels heard. Today, we're going to learn to climb the ladder, one step at a time. Step 1. Active listening. The gateway to de-escalation. The first, most fundamental step is active listening. This sounds almost insultingly simple, but let's be honest, most of us are terrible at it. Most of the time, we aren't actually listening. We're just being quiet, waiting for our turn to talk. We're busy forming our rebuttal, planning our counterattack, and searching for flaws in their argument instead of listening to the actual person. In the FBI's world, active listening is pure information gathering. Your only job is to let the other person talk so you can understand what's really going on. You're listening for their wants, needs, and fears. The goal isn't to respond, it's to prove you're hearing them. No one will listen to you until they feel heard. There are 4 key techniques to nail this. First, minimal encouragers. These are the small signals you tell someone so they think you're paying attention. Like, I'm with you, keep going, I see, okay, or just nodding. You're not agreeing, you're just signaling you're paying attention, which keeps them talking. Second, paraphrasing. Repeat the substance of what they said in your own words. If your coworker says, I'm drowning, I've got 3 huge projects due on the same day and feel like I'm being set up to fail, you don't just parrot them, you paraphrase, so it sounds like the workload feels impossible right now, and you're worried you can't succeed with these deadlines. This does 2 things. It confirms you understood correctly, and it makes them feel validated. Third, emotional labeling. This is one of the most powerful tools you have. You identify and say their emotion out loud, using phrases like, it seems like, or it sounds like. For example, it sounds like you're really frustrated with this, or it seems like you feel disrespected. When you name an emotion, you diffuse its power. They feel a wave of relief because someone finally gets how they feel. You don't have to agree with why they feel that way. Just acknowledge the feeling itself. Fourth, the most counterintuitive tool, strategic silence. After you paraphrase or label an emotion, just shut up. Don't rush to fill the void. This silence puts gentle pressure on them to elaborate, giving you even more clarity. It slows the whole conversation down and shows you're being thoughtful, not reactive. Imagine an employee is upset about being passed over for a promotion. They say, I've given 5 years to this company, and they gave the job to someone who started 6 months ago. It's a slap in the face. A bad response. Well, Mark has a different skill set that was a better fit. An active listening response. Okay, Minimal encourager. The employee continues. I just don't get it. I feel like my loyalty means nothing. The manager then paraphrases and labels. So it sounds like after all your hard work and dedication, seeing the position go to someone new feels incredibly discouraging and makes you feel unappreciated. Then, silence. The employee, feeling heard, might finally say, yeah, that's exactly it. I just don't know what my future is here anymore. Now you have the real issue. You never get there without starting with listening. Step 2. Empathy. Crossing the emotional bridge. Once you've truly listened, you've earned the right to move to step 2. Empathy. If active listening is about hearing what they say, empathy is about understanding the feeling and perspective behind it. First, a huge warning. We have to be crystal clear on what empathy is not. Empathy is not sympathy. Sympathy is feeling sorry for someone. Empathy is not agreement. You don't have to agree with their position or believe their feelings are justified to show empathy. The FBI calls this tactical empathy. It's the skill of understanding someone's mindset and then verbalizing that understanding back to them. Your goal is to make the other person feel so deeply understood that they say the magic words, "That's right." Not "you're right." That's agreement. "That's right" is a profound acknowledgement that you see the world from their point of view. Why does this work? When a person feels truly understood, their emotional defenses crumble. The fight or flight part of their brain starts to power down, and the rational problem-solving part comes back online. You are literally changing their brain chemistry by building an emotional bridge back to rational thought. So how do you do it? You build on your emotional labels from step 1. You validate their feelings without validating their actions. Try phrases like, I can see why you would be angry about that. It makes perfect sense that you would feel that way. That sounds like an incredibly stressful position to be in. Notice none of these say, you're right to be angry. You're just acknowledging that, from their perspective, their emotion is logical. Let's go back to the argument over a big, unexpected expense. Your partner is upset. How could you spend that much without talking to me? We have a budget. The instinct is to defend. It was an emergency. What was I supposed to do? And now you're fighting. Instead, try tactical empathy. After listening, you say, it sounds like seeing that charge on the credit card without any warning was really shocking and made you feel worried about our financial goals. Your partner, expecting a fight, is disarmed. Yeah, it did. I have this plan for us, and this feels like a huge setback. Now build on it. I get that. It feels like your careful planning was ignored, and that must be incredibly frustrating. I can see why you'd be upset. You haven't justified the expense. You haven't even explained it. All you've done is shown them you understand their fear and frustration. Once they feel that deep sense of being understood, they'll be ready to listen to your side of the story. You've de-escalated by validating their emotions, not by winning the argument. Step 3. Rapport. Building the alliance. After listening and showing real empathy, you start to create rapport. Rapport is the payoff for the first 2 steps. It's that feeling of trust and connection. Empathy is what you feel for them. Rapport is when they start to feel it back. It's the moment the dynamic shifts from you versus me to us versus the problem. You're no longer an adversary, you're an ally. In a negotiation, this is when their tone softens. Their body language might open up. They uncross their arms or lean in. They start using words like we and us. Rapport has to be earned, but you can nurture it. The most important thing is to stay calm. When they are emotional, your stability is an anchor. Speak slowly, in a calm tone. They will subconsciously start to mirror your composure. Also, show them respect. No sarcasm, no eye-rolling, no dismissive comments. Treat their problem with dignity, even if you think it's trivial. Think of a furious customer whose new gadget arrived broken. A bad response. Sir, file a claim online. I can't help you. A rapport-building response starts with listening and empathy. It sounds like you were really looking forward to getting this, and for it to arrive broken is incredibly disappointing. I can absolutely see why you're so upset. Then, to build rapport, the agent says calmly, we are going to get this sorted out for you. That "we" immediately signals a partnership. Let's figure out the best way to handle this. My main goal is to make this right. The customer who called ready for war now feels they have someone on their side. That feeling of trust is rapport. You've built an alliance. You're now standing side by side, looking at the problem together. Only now have you earned the right to move on. Step 4. Influence. The gentle art of guidance. Only after all that work do we get to step 4. Influence. This is the step where everyone screws up. Most people try to start here, and that's why they fail. You can only influence someone after they trust you, and they'll only trust you after they feel heard and understood. Influence isn't about commanding or demanding. It's about gently guiding their thinking so they come to the solution themselves. The best tool for this is the calibrated question. Calibrated questions are open-ended questions, usually starting with what or how, designed to make the other person think. They almost never start with why. Why did you do that? Sounds like an accusation. But what were you hoping to accomplish? Sounds like a genuine question. These questions shift the burden of problem solving onto them in a collaborative way. Some of the most powerful calibrated questions are: what is the biggest challenge you see here? How can we solve this problem together? What would you like me to do? And the knockout question when facing an unreasonable demand: how am I supposed to do that? This question, delivered respectfully, forces them to consider your position and the practical limits you face. It makes them solve your problem for you, often leading them to propose a more reasonable path on their own. Another pro-level technique is the accusation audit. This is where you preemptively call out all the negative things the other person might be thinking about you. You say them out loud first. For example, a manager giving tough feedback might start with, "You probably think I've called you in here just to criticize you. You might feel like I don't appreciate all your hard work, and that I'm just another boss who only focuses on the negative." By voicing these thoughts, you disarm them. The person feels a sense of relief, because you've verbalized their hidden fears, which paradoxically builds trust. It proves you have enough empathy to see the situation from their negative point of view. Let's go back to the teenager asking for a later curfew. The parent has listened. Active listening, shown they understand the desire for independence, empathy, and built a connection rapport. Now, instead of saying no, the parent uses calibrated questions. It's important for you to have more independence, and I get that. How can we make sure you're safe if your curfew is later? Or what would a plan look like that makes both of us feel comfortable? This isn't a trick. It's a real invitation to collaborate. You're guiding them to co-create a solution that honors their desires while upholding your responsibilities. That's true influence. Step 5, behavioral change, reaching a resolution. Finally, after climbing all those steps, you reach the summit. Behavioral change. This is the goal. It's when the other person willingly agrees to a course of action. If you've done the first 4 steps right, this last one is often the easiest. It feels like a natural conclusion, not a battle. The other person isn't being forced or manipulated. They are choosing to cooperate because they feel heard, respected, and involved in the solution. Behavioral change is the hostage taker surrendering. It's the angry customer accepting the return. It's the teenager agreeing to the co-created curfew and actually sticking to it. The key is that the change is voluntary. You created an environment where they want to agree. The solution feels like their idea because through calibrated questions they help design it. This sense of ownership makes the agreement stick. You haven't just won the argument. You've solved the problem and strengthened the relationship. You've replaced conflict with collaboration. So let's recap the FBI's 5 steps. Active listening. Show them they are being heard. Empathy. Show them you understand their feelings. Rapport. Build trust and become an ally. Influence. Gently guide them toward a solution with calibrated questions. Behavioral change. Reach a voluntary agreement. Here's my challenge to you. This week, pick just one technique. Maybe it's emotional labeling. Maybe it's asking, how am I supposed to do that? Try it in a low-stakes conversation. See what happens. Then come back here and share your experience in the comments. Let's learn from each other. From a high-stakes crisis negotiation to a simple disagreement over dinner, the path to resolution is the same. It's not about having the best facts. It's about a strategic, empathetic journey up the 5 steps of the behavioral change stairway. Mastering this isn't just about learning a communication trick. It's about fundamentally shifting how you see conflict. It's a skill that can transform your relationships, lower your stress, and give you the quiet confidence to handle any difficult conversation. It's the power to turn conflict into connection. If this was valuable, give this video a like to help it reach more people. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next video. Congratulations! You've just taken another step toward mastering psychological self-defense. Here on Psych-Jitsu, we dive deep into neuroscience-based tactics, psychological strategies, and martial arts mindset training to help you protect your mind and navigate any situation with confidence. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. Psych-Jitsu isn't just theory, it's your first line of defense.